incident that caused me to shift my life was my third failed marriage. I got married a third time, but I was searching for love. I wanted to be married, I wanted love, but it just seemed like I was searching for love in all the wrong places because I never got it right. So my marriage to my third husband was very abusive. It was like I was walking on eggshells. This man, I couldn't do nothing right, and he was always abusing me, if he felt like his dinner wasn't right, or if I didn't say something right, or, whenever my kids wasn't there, or whenever we was in the bedroom closed up, he would never abuse me in front of my kids, but whenever he felt like we were alone, like he was a coward, but, and for me, it's funny because, when I was a teenager, I was such a aggressive person. I would fight in a minute, and then here I am in this abusive relationship, and I'm trying to hide it from my family and not tell anybody, and being abused, even at work. He would come on my job and abuse me. So it got so bad till one time I was so mentally distraught. I was getting ready for work, and I was going to work, and I was driving and not really paying attention because my mental state wasn't there, and I almost got in an accident where I was, I would have been fatally killed, But God was so gracious to me, I'm so thankful to him, I went to a battered women's shelter. I didn't tell my kids, I didn't tell my family, I didn't tell anyone. From the battered women's shelter, I went all the way to Oklahoma to a friend. And my husband, he found out where I was and called and said, "Oh, I'm so sorry, I'm not gonna do that again, I'm changed, I'm not gonna." But I was like, "Carol, what are you thinking, girl? You done left your kids, I'm trying to run away, get away from this abuse, and I left my kids." I said, "Oh my God," and put my children in danger. So when he called, I said, "Okay, well, I gotta get back to my kids, I gotta, I went back, and the abuse started again, it was all totally a lie. So I prayed and I said, "God, you got to give me the strength. I can't keep on being abused and, being mistreated." And so I finally took my kids and packed up and left, And he would call and say it's the same little story, like, "Oh, that, I'm so sorry. Please forgive me." I said, "Oh no, I'm sorry. That won't work. Not this time. This is it, I got a divorce, and so once I was divorced, I said, "Lord, I want to change. I don't want to be in Louisiana anymore. I want a whole new environment. I want to start over." And so I was working as a paralegal for the Attorney General's office in New Orleans, and so my friend said, "Carol, I'm moving to Washington, D.C. She said, "Would you like to relocate with me?" I said, "Sure." And my family, now they be asking me, "Well, how did you get way out there to D.C.?" But I wanted change. I wanted a whole different, environment, a whole different life. Even though I had, been in the Air Force and I had seen part of the world, but I needed something different then, in my life. So I packed up my clothes and packed up my, like I said, my daughters were all married. So my son, he was in Grambling in college. So I came out here, I was by myself for a while. Grambling lost their accreditation, and I told my son, "Oops, you gotta go. You gotta come to Maryland, because he didn't want to come out here. He wanted to stay in Louisiana. I said, no, Grambling done lost their accreditation. You gotta pack it on up, son, and roll on down here to Maryland. So me and him was out here, and it was so much better. I was in a new environment. I was able to travel. Me and him would go to Philly, go to New York, go to Virginia. I'm just saying, oh yeah, I just was enjoying life, and I was able to focus on what I love, and that's the ministry, preaching God's word, because I love preaching His word. I love reading the Bible. I love, just doing God's will. So I was free to do that. So I was just ecstatic about that. I started traveling with my brother across the country. We was giving conferences in Delaware, Alabama, Mississippi, so I was just, wow, thank you, Jesus. I got my life back, so I was really happy about that. So that's the incident that made me change my life, because, nobody deserves to be abused. I failed at marriage 3 times, because in my childhood, my mom was abused by my dad, and he was very abusive. He was totally like a monster to me, I just hated him. He would beat her like a man. And he would knock her down the steps. He hit her in the head with an ashtray, bust her head wide open. I mean, he just would beat her like she was a man, and for me, I felt like, I'm not gonna let nobody do that to me, and I'm not gonna, if they do one thing wrong, I'm out of there, because just living as a child, as a kid through that kind of trauma, not knowing the next day if your mom gonna live, because you seeing your dad beat her like she's a man, and I really hated him, and I showed him that, because like I said, when I was a teenager, I was nothing to beat. I was, what they say, these kids out here, they rough. I was rough. You touch me, I'm gonna beat you down. That's why when I had this third marriage and I let this man do this to me, I'm like, how? Because you just touch me and I'm ready to fight, because I was just that angry, that mad, and so I just wanted love, but looked like every time I would get married, my first husband, he was spoiled. He was the baby. I'm the oldest, so I was really responsible. We had our lights cut off, our rent not paid. I'm like, nah, this ain't, I can't. And then the second one, he was controlling. He would, they had this new, the landlines where you can change your phone, where you, can send your calls to a different phone. So he would change the phone where I couldn't get calls from my family, no friends. Yeah, he cheated on me, For me, I didn't know what love looked like, because in my world, from a child, marriage and love was chaotic, and, it was never because in our household, in my childhood, my dad, he was a weekend drunk. He was an alcoholic. And so during the week, the house was like a chilling jail cell. Nobody talked, nobody laughed, nobody played games, it was, so for me, growing up, I didn't know emotions. And, I didn't know how to share emotions. So a lot of that might have played into those marriages too, because my child upbringing, it was just chaotic. No love, no emotions, no, I mean, like during the weekdays, our house was just quiet, and on the weekend it was, a fist fight, and so so I really didn't know what love was or what to expect, because I didn't have that, I didn't see that, I didn't know that, so it was just like, but I was searching for that. I want to have a loving, kind, gentle relationship, but that didn't happen for me. I found love in reading my Bible and giving my life to Christ. I feel that love because I feel God's presence, his warm arms around me and how he speaks to me, and that is just a wonderful feeling, to know that Christ calls you a friend, and to know that he loves me enough to use me, to his glory. That's warm love, that I never had as a child, I never had in a marriage, but I feel that love that God gives to me, and it's wonderful, and I'm just so grateful, that I've had that opportunity to know what love is, because Jesus Christ is love, and that's what I hope that somebody that would see, that Christ is love that's just undescribable. It's joy, it's peace, it's just so much happiness in it, and so I just thank God for sparing my life, because, the man could have killed me, abusing me, So many people lose their lives, but God was gracious enough to let me break free from that situation, and I thank him for letting me feel his love. My life now is just amazing, because I'm retired after working 40 plus years. And I'm able to travel the country and, go wherever I want to go, when I want to go. And I'm just enjoying just that quality time that I have with Christ too, because I can give him more time. And I love reading his word. I was telling my son and my daughter-in-law, like, I read the Bible and I study it, but you can read something one time and then you go back and you see something else in there, so it's been so much, I've been enjoying this time of reading it. I've even had where in the back of my Bible, where you can read your Bible in a year and map out the scriptures that you can read, and I've been enjoying doing that. And it's things that I've read before, but I've been getting some real nuggets out of the word, going back over those scriptures again. So life is good. It's really great, I'm just excited to see what God has in store for me and what's next, and what's the next level that he's going to bring me to, but right now it's just amazing. So I'm enjoying it. With the women that I meet around the country, like my daughters, I've been underwriting for them, and we've met some amazing women across, the country. We've given these amazing events, empowering women events, and gospel explosions to close out those events. And it's just been great to meet all these amazing people across the country, so God is true. I learned about myself that I'm not a person that'll give up. No matter what the obstacles, I'm gonna push through them. No matter how hard it seems, I'm gonna climb that hill, go over that. Like they say, don't ask God to move that mountain out the way. You can just ask him to help you to climb over it. Well, that's me, And I celebrate just the joy that I have, you know. I'm just, right now in my life, I think on social media, I told them I'm living my best life. Because that's what I feel, you know, because I just have that joy. I have my wonderful kids that love me and, you know, take very good care of me. So I just, you know, I just feel like, wow, this is just amazing, the space that I'm in now, you know. But I thank God for life the way it is right now. I'm really enjoying life. Now, I'm not gonna say I don't have, everybody has ups and downs, but life is good. It's good. No, I just wanna say that, you know, to women, be good to yourself, because you're worth it. I was coming off of the heels of a bad relationship. He had been murdered, like right in front of my face, murdered. And this was, I had a child by then at the age of 19. So this was my son's father. And even though I was sad he was gone, I just wanted, because the relationship was so abusive, I just wanted to be safe. I felt like the childhood that I lived, because of the constant different people, stepfathers that you didn't know personally, and not feeling safe with my siblings, like I didn't fit in with them, and then coming off that relationship, I definitely was looking for safety. It was the trying to rebuild. And it was a phone call specifically with my mother. And her telling me, when I asked her, Mom, how do I get my own apartment? What do I do? And her telling me, you need to apply for your food stamps, your welfare, and your Section 8. And as I'm hearing her telling me this whole process of, you know, applying for these systematic things, I was having this other conversation in my head with someone else that was telling me no. It's like a resounding no, that this was not it. This was not the way to go. This was not the life I wanted. Even though I listened and I respected everything she was saying because she was my mom, I knew that I wasn't going to take the advice she was giving me. I think the no came from a lot of places, and particularly, I think that the first place it came from was, as a child, I was a reader, and I had read so many books about just different lifestyles, different people, different types of living. So I knew that the lifestyle that we lived was not the only way. But more importantly, I think the no came from God. Because even at the age of 19, and for so many years before that, I had a very, very personal relationship with God. And I felt like the voice in my head was the voice of God. You know, we had phone books. So I got in that phone book and looked up apartments and got the addresses and the names of different places, went and talked to those people, asked questions, looked up, went to the library, got some resources of how to find an apartment, things like that. That's what I did. I started off reading, just figuring out what I have to do, finding people who had the answer to the questions that
I had, how to create this type of, I just wanted a simple little apartment, that's it. I lived in a homeless shelter prior to all of this happening. So at the Covenant House, they put me through school to be a certified nursing assistant. I really appreciate that place for that. And I even went back to them for resources, because I remember when I stayed there, it was a very brief tenure, but I maybe stayed there like a month or something like that with my son. So I even went back to them to saying, I remember them saying, oh, we can help you find your own place. You know, when they had resources to help kids find their own place. But I never got to that point because I left there abruptly. So I went back there for those resources. I didn't use the resources because they had the same type of resources of government assistance. And I knew that that's not what I wanted. So basically I found an apartment that I can afford according to the money I was making. It was a little studio, a room in the kitchen, and applied. Huh? It was safe, it really was. It had a security guard at the front gate. I just knew I was living good. Security guard at the front gate, and it was an enclosed, type of little type of community. So I just knew that I was safe at that time. When I tell you, between God and reading, those are my just saving graces, just my whole life. I didn't know how to do, I didn't have the people, I didn't have the resources, and I definitely didn't have the money. But I definitely just learned that learning and reading and researching and knowledge got me everywhere I wanted to be. From a CNA, I went back to being an LPN. And I did the same old thing, got in the phone book and looked up some colleges and said, I'm going back to school. And went back and said, what's the process? The same old thing when I had to find an apartment. What do I have to do? What are the requirements? And figured it out and went back to school, put myself back to school for LPN. And then as an LPN, I became a manager, became a supervisor. I can't say I worked my way up as a LPN, because I found out that I was kind of promoted as a vet. Yeah, it was a vet. It was the ADON and the administrator who didn't like me, and they bet that I would fail. The administrator wanted to get rid of me because of my mouth. I was flipped, and the ADON liked me. She said, no, this girl has some good going on for her. So they made a bet that I would, whether or not I can do well in this supervisor position. And so they promoted me to supervisor, and I ran with it. Eventually, I left that job. They begged me to stay. But I felt like I just wanted more. And I remember when I applied for the next job, and they saw that I had supervisor management on my resume. And I had applied for a regular nursing job, and it was like, well, no, we're not gonna hire you as a nurse. We wanna hire you as a supervisor. And ever since then, I was in management because of that bet. So my next job, I went as a manager of an assisted living facility, as the head nurse, did well. But I felt like as an LPN, I couldn't go any further. You can only go so far as in management as an LPN. So I went back to school to be an RN. And I did the same old thing, research, get in those books, research, get on the computer. By that time we had computers. Get on those computers, do some research and figure it out, what do I do? And then when they told me about the program, I started a program, and you do so much of programming of just what they call theory, and then you get to the point where you have to go to clinicals. And I'm like, by this time, I'm divorced. I have 2 kids instead of 1. And I'm like, how can I just go work for these people and call it schooling for free, do clinicals, and still take care of my kids? I couldn't do that. So I decided to open a business to replace my income. I knew I wanted to open a business to replace my income. I didn't know what business, I didn't know how, I didn't know. Once again, I was embarking upon something I didn't know nothing about. So I did what I do. I talk to the man above, and I get in those books and I read. I research and read. And that's exactly what I did. And it took me 9 months to open the barbershop that I have now, Who That Barbershop. It's been 13 years. And I did all of that through research and reading, and definitely God through every step of the way. Now, I definitely feel safe. I feel like I've created a world for myself, for people around me, for my staff, for my children, a safe environment that we can all live in, a safe world that we can live in. I know I'm a server, and I like to serve safety. I like to serve what I know, reading. That's my passion. And I like to serve God. I've had the barbershop for 13 years. I just created a foundation called Who That Cares Foundation. And it's all about teaching children about reading, about learning about their purpose from a young age. I think I believed for so long that I needed somebody else to create that safety. And it was usually a man associated with completion of that safety for me. And I think I got that from my mom because she kept a man. So it wasn't until I spent some years with myself and I learned that I didn't need to complete myself I didn't need to find safety through someone else, that I was able to find safety in myself and in the things that I can do. I'm most proud of, first of all the things I've been through. And I haven't even listed it all. Between the marriage was abusive, I've been raped, I've been homeless, and I've been in a lot of unsafe relationships in unsafe environments. But I have to tell you that I don't regret any of it because I know that it made me who I am today. I think that the path that I was on was the path that I was supposed to be on, because it led me here. It led me to who I am. I've always been on a path of growth, progress, and learning. It's been a journey, but I definitely just embrace it all. So what I learned about myself was, with God and with the abilities that He put in you, the blessings and the purpose He already put inside of you, you can do whatever it is that you plan to do, that you want to do. So when I accomplish what I set out to accomplish, and it's time to go back to the drawing board and say, okay, God, what's next? I know that whatever's next, I can do that too, through the grace of God. It takes us so long to find our purpose. Some people are 40, 50, 60 years old and just beginning to ask the questions of, who am I? Why am I here? What am I really meant to do? And my hope is that we can instill in children from a young age, because you know as a child. So if we can instill in children their purpose, that they are here for a reason, and let them know who they are and help them to identify who they are at a young age, that we can help more people to find their purpose and live in their purpose quicker. So that's my hope for the future.
À toi régner specific event that made me want to shift my life would be the loss of my last son. And by loss, I mean I was pregnant at one point, and 7 months in, I was told he was no longer with us, and I had to deliver him. And so it had to shift my perspective of ever being a mother, because for me, that was the last time I knew I would be pregnant. I was newly married. I actually had been pregnant just the year prior. I had met my husband, my current husband, and we've gotten pregnant, and it was my first pregnancy. So I've lost 2 within a year's time. So it was my first pregnancy. I was 42, and so I was excited with the first one. And 4 months in, I lost that baby. His name was Christian, so I lost Christian. I was upset, but I know God had a plan. My husband and I got married. Then I ended up got pregnant on the honeymoon. I was like, okay, thank you, Lord. You're allowing me to do what I've asked of you, and this was to be a mother of my own, have my own. So I got pregnant. We knew it was a boy. We were happy. And 7 months in, I went to the doctor because he had a issue with boys. They have like a backup even in when you're pregnant, so they wanted to make sure that cleared. So I was going to be tested to make sure he was fine. And the technician's face went blank. And my mother had just happened to go with me that day, because usually I'm by myself at the appointments because my husband works a lot. And I said, he's not here. And it was devastating. That was, sorry. It was devastating because all I wanted was boys. And I don't get to take him home. And the doctor said we couldn't take it. I couldn't just go right to the doctor. I literally had to go home that night. 2 days with a baby that I was never gonna see grow up. And then deliver it. Go to the hospital 2 days later and deliver a baby. Literally go through labor and deliver a baby. Life stood still briefly, because if I didn't have a relationship with God, I think I would still be somewhere in a corner rocking. So yes, I had to deliver a baby that I wouldn't bring home. Thank God for family, thank God for friends who knew God and who could pray with me to get me through. But thank God for my own relationship, that I could sit with him and he could give me comfort through it. That I didn't, even though I might cry now, because just to think about it, because still as a woman, your job is to get married, have babies, produce the next generation. And it's like, it's not really our only job, but that's what I've been geared to believe. Not what I was always told, but what I was geared to believe. So I'm good, So so the last son, my son's name was Jonathan, and the hospital where I had to deliver him they were special. So they gave me a teddy bear. Before I left, there are pictures of him, of all of him, his hat, his blanket, his name tag, because his name was Jonathan. My tag, of course, but it's just pictures of him. And I always keep the feet, because for me, baby's feet are always the best. And they put it in this box, and I thought, and I have his sonogram. And there is a shell. So I don't really recall why the shell, but they gave it to me like to give him water, but he was really already gone. But I think they took like a picture of him and everything. So that's what's in this box. And the teddy bear is just so I could have something to remember. And then they gave me, we also had a burial, so the hospital does a big burial for all the children that have passed. And that burial was, so he was delivered July 28th. The burial was like October 3rd, so we did get to have a funeral and say goodbye. And they gave us a tulip so that we could plant it in remembrance of them. Yes. My grieving process was that God knew better. Didn't really grieve, but when it comes to July, both Christian and Jonathan only 7 days apart where I had to deliver them. So one was July 21st, one was July 28th. So I do still get sad around that time. It gets better if I'm busy. It's like, but I didn't really do the healing. I didn't do counseling until 2021. So all of the loss all happened in 2010 and 2011. But the healing process is just starting. And when I got invited to do this, I said, this could be the last part of the healing I needed for me. So I started going to Hope Zero or Zero Hope, where they deal with women that have lost babies, and you get to talk about it, and you get to, and these people already still have children. So I'm still in the dynamics all by myself, is that I still don't have children of my own. I have children that stepchildren. I don't have children that I bore, that I am gonna raise from babies. So that's a whole different dynamic all by itself. I had babies. They're just in heaven with God, but I'm a godmother. I'm an aunt. I am a girlfriend whose girlfriends have babies. I'm a stepmom. So my current husband has boys. God gave me my boys. He gave me 2. And in the process of them being boys, one has given me grandchildren. So now I'm a grandmother. Not only am I a mother, but I'm a grandmother. But it took me a while. Mother's days were hard before my first pregnancy, because I was like, you can't give me anything because I've never been pregnant. You couldn't say, oh, you're a godmother. That didn't do that for me. But now it's like, proudly, yes, I'm a mother. I am a stepmother. I'm a godmother, who were really my first children, because I watched them. I was there in the delivery room with them. I was there. I'm a mother. I'm a mother also because I love children. So even in the church, if you're sitting beside me, oh, I'm gonna go sit by Miss Felicia, I'm a mother. So my mindset had to change. Yes. Of all the children that I have in my life that I've influenced, what do I hope to pass on to them? A relationship with God, to put God first, to know that they're loved, that I love them, that I am in their corner for them, no matter how it looks. If you need me, I'm there. But to pass on that family is important, but God is important first. And that no matter how it looks, it will turn out for your good. He does have you, no matter how it looks. What is my hope going forward? For me or for the world? That I get to see my grandchildren grow up, because they don't live here in Maryland. One's in Florida. That I get to spend more time with them, that I'm healthy enough, and my husband is healthy enough when he retires, that we could travel and we can get to spend time with the one in Florida and the other one's just in Virginia. My hope is that I get to just be able to be an influence in my grandchildren's life like I was in my godchildren's life, like I was in the grown boys that came into my life 12 years ago. That I'm an influence, not just a good influence like I was getting ready to say, that I'm an influence, that I show them the love of God, that I keep that first, because that's important. That's important. One of their mothers doesn't have a relationship with God, but their grandmothers do, and that at least all of their grandmothers, they have that relationship that I can show them what walking with God looks like. That is my hope.
The 1 minute, honestly, I wanted to be saved, and then the next minute, I wanted to party, be out in the street, and doing what I wanted to do. I wanted my family and friends to think that I was living a good Christian life, but when I wasn't around them, I was out there doing whatever I wanted to do, just not living a good Christian life, and thinking that nobody knew what I was doing. But to me, I was happy. I was fine. I didn't have no issues. And I went to church one day. I went to a revival one day, and this guy called me up. And he told me that I had to choose that day who I was going to serve. He said, "You're going to choose God?" He says, "He's going to be heaven or hell to make a choice because you had a calling on your life." And that day is what changed my life. And I just stopped everything. The next month is when I got an email on social media from my soon-to-be ex-husband, who was like, we went to high school together. And yeah, so I knew him all in high school. And he said, this is such and such, and, I'm a totally different person, and I would like, just saying hi, and maybe we could get together. And that's when everything changed for me. I feel like there were obstacles because it was my third marriage. In being this, so it was my third marriage. I didn't want to feel like a complete failure, and I was worried about how people was gonna look at me like, so I felt like I had to make this one work. Like it just had to work. Then he started, having affairs, sleeping out, and in my 50s, I had never encountered contracting STDs or anything. And he decided he was going to bring that home to me. I confronted him about it. I went to the doctor. I was treated for it. He was treated for it. I wanted peace. I just wanted a peace of mind. I wanted to be free. I just felt like I was trapped. And then I started searching for a closer relationship with God because I knew that was my way out. To me, I wasn't free because I was still around the same environment. I just needed to get away. So eventually my son, who lived in St. Louis, he told me, he said, Mom, why don't you come out here and just start all over? Because I was in Louisiana. And that Wednesday, we talked that Wednesday. I went out there that Friday, put in an application online that Saturday. The people called me that Tuesday, interviewed me that Wednesday, and hired me that following Friday, and that next week I started. And it happened that fast. And I put all my stuff in storage and I left. And then I really felt free. And even when I was moving, I just felt like a big relief when I crossed when I left and crossed the state line, I just felt like a burden was just like lifted off of me. I can't even explain that, but I just felt so light, so light. I cried all the way there almost. That's how light I felt. And then I changed my number, didn't talk to nobody for months. And my daughter started calling me because I gave only my kids my number. And I told them, if you give it to anybody, I will not talk to you. And my daughter called me and she said, Mama, please call T. Cynthia because she's worried. And I was like, no, I ain't ready to talk to nobody. And so she called me every week. So it took me like 2 months to even interact with anybody. I actually started learning that I made a whole lot of decisions, wrong decisions, not just listening to myself, but listening to other people that were supposedly in the church. And that I had to really, really only listen to God. I learned that I had to build a relationship with God for myself. And that's what I worked on.
What did you learn about God that you didn't know when you were with him?
That he never left me. He never left me. He was always there the whole time. He never left me. That was it. It changed everything. It's hard for me to trust anybody. And my circle is so small. If anybody notices who's around me, my phone don't ring. They haven't heard it ring at all. It does not ring. Unless my kids call me, period. And I realized that your family is not always your immediate family. I have siblings and cousins and stuff I have not talked to in years at all. I'm talking like when I moved from Louisiana like 6 years ago, I haven't spoken to them since, period. But I have friends like Prophetess Carol that I talk to. That's it. So I've learned that I want in my life who God wants in my life. And that's important because he's gonna put people in your life that you need. Not what you want, but who you really need. I am not the same person. Oh, before I moved, you really couldn't tell me anything. Most of the time I was right. I always had a wall up. I wouldn't hear you too well, you know. But now, I understand a whole lot better. And I think it's because of what I went through. I couldn't take criticism very well. And now I could take it a whole lot better. Like you could come to me and you could tell me the things I'm doing wrong and I'm okay with it now. Before you couldn't do that. But I want to know what I'm doing wrong now. Before I couldn't take it. And I think that's why my relationship even with my kids are so much better, because they could come to me now and talk to me about, the things that happen, and I can apologize and talk to them about it now, because I failed in so many ways, and I could tell them how sorry I am. It has been more than graceful to me, because I put myself in some very, very bad situations, and if it wasn't for His grace, I really don't know where I would be. I really played Russian roulette with my life a lot of times. But if you only get me out of this situation, God, I won't do it again. I've been out with co-workers when I lived in New Orleans, and after work we'd go out and we'd party all night and meet somebody and go home with them, not even knowing who they were. Waking up like, how did I get here? That was only God's grace that got me out of that, because truly I didn't know who these people were. I was engaged one time to a young lady, and the pastor called me up, and he told me that God was giving me a chance. He said, heaven or hell. That was grace. I went home. I said, look, I can't do this anymore. Well, we fought from the front to the back. It was about an hour fight. I was so tired fighting this young lady. That was grace, because I was like, this enemy, it's like the enemy did not want to let me go.
What do you hope?
To help other, not just women, but anybody who struggle in abusive marriage. And it don't have to be physical. It could be emotional abuse. It's far more traumatizing to me than abuse, physical abuse. But anybody who deal with emotional abuse, homosexuality, know that you could be delivered from that. People think that you're just stuck and you're not. God can deliver anybody.
It was one day that me and my kid's father had an argument, but he wasn't physically at the house at the time, but all the other arguments that we had, the altercations that we had, I was scared. He had was calling and threatening me and telling me that he was on his way, he was coming. I went to work. And the law firm that I was working with at the time, they had a feeling that something was going on with me. And they started to ask like if I was okay, and I just couldn't hold it in anymore. And I started crying, and they just was like trying to console me. And I told them what was going on. So they put me up in the Airbnb. Me and the kids went there. Like I went and got them from school. We went straight there. I had, after that, like I knew like I needed to leave. So instead of going back to the house, I just left. I I had some stuff with us, like the main things that we needed, and I left and went to New Orleans. Yeah, it was like a quick decision, and I was just like, okay, I had enough, because we had already been through a lot of other altercations, and I knew like if I had stayed, it was not going to turn out good. So I had to leave. The first incident happened after my first daughter with him. And then I stayed after that, and I think it was more the kids. I was embarrassed, I was scared. I felt like, okay, because I had 3 kids before him. So I felt like, okay, I've had 2 kids with this guy, and I need to try to make it work, because, I just felt like I didn't have a choice. And just fear of leaving, because at one point I tried to leave, and that didn't turn out good at all. That was like very, very humiliating. So I just stayed and tried to deal with the things that I was going through. I wanted freedom. I felt like I wasn't myself. I was not happy. I was very depressed. I just wanted to be able to have a life, have friends, because I couldn't have friends. I couldn't be friends with people like he would. He would really antagonize me and bully me when it came to talking to anybody. So I wanted to have a life where I didn't have to walk on eggshells with anyone. I could just have fun and enjoy myself. I just wanted to be able to raise my kids like I was doing, but also be happy and be successful. I wanted to, when I was with him, I wanted to buy a house. That didn't work, but soon as I got out of the relationship, I bought a house. So everything went in the right direction for me once I let go of the relationship, and it just made me realize that that's what was holding me back, because everything just went up from there. So he would go, like I said, he was from Panama City, which I stayed in Panama City for 5 years. That's where I met him at. But then he went to prison, and when he went to prison, someone broke in the house because of him. They broke in our house, and so I went home to New Orleans for the summer while the kids were out of school, and then when it was time to move back, I moved back to Pensacola, where that's where his mom stayed. So he would always be back and forth from Panama City to Pensacola, so that was his way of still having his life there and then coming back. So the first time I tried to leave, he had been back and forth from Panama City to Pensacola, and at this point he had got another girl pregnant. I decided that that's it. I'm done with the relationship. I'm done. He already knew that I didn't want to deal with him, because it had been a while, probably a few months. But he started reaching back out to me, which he usually does after he gets his break from me or whatever. He'll start reaching back out to me, and I had told him that I had been talking to someone else. But the person that I had been talking to was in Arizona. Arizona. They were in Arizona. It was somebody that I went to high school with, so we wasn't physically seeing each other or anything. We were just talking on the phone and catching up with school, because we had went to high school together. So we would catch up. When he found out, I had told him over the phone that I had been talking to someone. When he found out this, he started calling my job. I was at work. He started calling my job, he was calling back to back. The head paralegal, she came to me. She was like, "Grace, you have to get this under control or whatever, because it's going to cause a problem." And she didn't want to tell the attorneys, so she just came to me and she was like, "You have to get it under control." He stopped calling. I had called his sister, because I was like, I don't know where. He said he's threatening me. He's been calling my job. This was after I told him that it's off. I'm talking to somebody else. I do like the guy. We're just conversating. So when I got home from work, me and the kids had just got home, and we were like in the kitchen. I think I was in the kitchen getting ready to prepare dinner. Everybody was downstairs. He came through the back door, and when he came through the back door, the first thing he reached for, he just grabbed my phone. And when he grabbed my phone, he told me to go upstairs. And because I knew what was about to happen, I didn't want it to happen in front of the kids, so I just went upstairs. And when I went upstairs, that's when he, started hitting on me and, abusing me. And then the guy that I had been talking to called. So he called the phone. He called my phone. At this point, he still has my phone. And so he gives me the phone. So I don't know what he wanted me to say, but he gives me the phone. So I get on the phone and I'm like, I'll call you back. I told the guy I was gonna call him back. And when I said that, he really got upset. I guess he wanted me to tell him that I'll never talk to you again or something, I don't know. But I told him I'll call him back, and he really got upset. He grabbed me, he took my phone, put it on record. He grabbed me, put me down on my knees, and put his private in my mouth and recorded it and sent it to the guy and said, "This is my bitch." And that was like the most humiliating thing ever happened to me. And I've seen him since I moved back to New Orleans. I've seen him probably 5 times. And it's like really hard because after that, I never talked to him again after that. I never talked to him. I never called him. I blocked his number because I was very humiliated and embarrassed. The guy, he still was trying to reach out and check on me to see if I was okay. He had emailed me and because he couldn't get through to me on the phone, but I just couldn't talk to him because I was embarrassed. So that's the kind of things he would do. So even when I left and went to New Orleans, I thought it was over, but I think I was 100% over. Didn't want to be in a relationship, but I was still feeling like I had to help him. He got in trouble and he went to jail in Louisiana, and he called me. This was after I moved to New Orleans. So he called me to try to get me to help him, and I did. And so they put him on house arrest, and he came and stayed with me in New Orleans. And he came and stayed with me in New Orleans for a very short period, and another fight broke out. It was something with Snapchat, and he thought it was somebody that he knew that I didn't know, and it was on my friend list, and I don't even use Snapchat like that. And I was like, I don't even know who this person is. And a fight broke out, and that time the fight broke out, the kids were there. His daughter was there. It was really around the pandemic time. So they ran in the room and they were trying to stop the fight. And he was my youngest daughter, he slung her out the way, which is his daughter. So after that, he left, and I was like, I'm not doing it no more. And that was the ultimate, I'm done. I think what helped me and what helped me in relation to him not coming back or retaliating against me or doing anything or come and try to attack me, what helped me was me being in my hometown around my family, because I feel like if that situation would have happened in Florida, it wouldn't have just ended like that. He would have came back. He wouldn't have left and not came back. He would have came back. He would text me, and he was like, I love you, and he would leave messages on my Facebook. I'm bipolar. I'm coming home. I'm sorry. I'm bipolar. I'm coming home. And it was just really a back and forth roller coaster ride. I think me being in New Orleans is what really made me feel safe, because I had my family around me, and it wasn't anything specific that happened. I just felt loved. When I was in Florida, I felt alone. So a lot of times when things would happen in Florida, I wouldn't talk to anyone. I didn't have anybody to talk to. And that goes back to like me being embarrassed or feeling shameful because I was going through that situation. But when I was in New Orleans and after he was gone, I just felt so much love around me. Like I had a good support system. And that support system had always been there. I just was blind to it. I was blind to it because of myself. So the support system had always been there. I wasn't being resourceful in taking advantage of the support system. But me being in New Orleans and when he left, I just felt really good. I would just go to the park. I would sit and meditate. Like I would just things that I would go out with my cousins and have fun with my cousins. And people that I knew cared about me. I would be around them, genuine love. So I still struggled. I still struggled with different things, which led me to, like, I had to go to therapy. I had to, like, really get help, professional help, to, like, get over a lot of that trauma. And I didn't know I needed that at first either. But just being in New Orleans, me being around people that loved and cared about me and believed in me, it helped tremendously. And then things would, I got a job that was paying double what I was making in Florida. And then I bought a house, I bought a new car for my kids. Like it just, everything, after I got out of that relationship, everything that I wanted started to happen. Like, and it was like, I was like, oh, like I was amazed. Like I was shocked. And sometimes I look back now, I'm just like, I think like, what were you doing? But I'm blessed in where I'm at now and where I was at. And it just let me know that there was always an out. I always had that out, but I just had to step out on faith and believe in myself to do it. Because it is a mental bondage, even though, like, because the bruises go away and you heal from those physical pains, but the mental bondage is more like what holds you there. I never faced anything that I went through even as a child. I never really dealt with those things until I was an adult, until after that situation, and I knew I needed to get like professional help, because I was even I got into another relationship, which is the relationship I'm in now, and it's a really healthy relationship. It's the healthiest relationship I've ever been in. But I was bringing my trauma into it. I was acting like in ways that I shouldn't have acted. So I knew that, and I was very angry. Sometimes I would yell, like even sometimes at the kids and stuff. So I knew I needed to get the help that helped to, like, just, even though I was feeling free and I was doing things that I love to do and I was happy, I still had like some deeper issues that I needed to work out. And also my oldest son, I lost my oldest son's dad to suicide when he was 1. So that was also a part of me that I was holding on to, and I felt like I always had to be there. Like anytime somebody need me, I have to be there, because I might lose them. They might kill, I always had that also in the back of my head that I never dealt with, that I never really healed from. I know resilience has like some people say, well, I don't want to be resilient no more because there's too much stuff being thrown at me, but I am very resilient. It's a lot that I've been through. So to see, how I am now and what, all the progress that I've made is like, wow. I know, which I've always knew, that God is real, and I know that He carried me through like all the situations, like without doubt. When I felt that I was like alone out there where I was at and I didn't have anybody, I know He was there, because it's so many situations that happen that I could have not been here, you know, like he took me and my kids on a high-speed chase from the police. And the only thing I could think about in that car was like, this car is getting ready to flip. This car is going to flip. And I just kept praying in the car, like, don't let this car flip. God was with me then. He like pushed me downstairs, like the stairs at our house. I could have been gone. You know, it's just like so much I know that God was with me, and he was waiting on me to make the move, because like I said, once I did make the move, everything that I wanted started to happen. And it was just confirmation from the start of the job. It was confirmation that I'm moving in the right direction, because everything just was, I was like really, really amazed. And like I said, still to this day, sometimes I look back and I'm like, wow, I'm like really doing things. I'm doing things different. So I know that he's always been with me through everything that I went through.